Right, so a lot of these plants you could actually bring out the variegation on purpose. If you're cutting your plant, keep an eye on the stem of the plant. You'd see it's kind of like a very marbled look, right? And the stem of the plant is just as variegated as your leaf. So where you want to cut is where it's variegated the most. You'll be looking for an eye, a small. This one is not very visual, is it?
Well, it's very condensed
compact,
at the moment.
I think because it's climbing. So you'll be looking for something that looks like that, kind of like a bump. It's like a rounded, not this one specifically, but it looks like this. It would be like a very rounded, almost like a pimple, right? So if that pimple would land on one of these, the stem where it's kind of stripy, like that, right, and you cut it above that pimple would form into the leaf, right? And that leaf would have a lot of variegation, because it's come out from that area. So if you want to get your plants to be variegated, then using that method would bring out the variegation in the plants. Okay. Right, so this is that's the Monstera borsigiana, common Monstera. There's actually a difference between the deliciosa and the borsigiana, which people don't know. This one wouldn't grow very big. The leaves wouldn't grow very massive compared to that one in the ground. Sorry, over there. That one would grow really massive. So that one is a deliciosa, the fruit that's edible. Yeah. While this one is a borsigiana. I'm not sure if it's edible, but that's the one that people talk about being edible, right? So the variegations on these plants are obviously random. There's no control to them. The plant, I don't think the plant even kind of decides what's going to happen, because it's actually it's a misfunction. It's something that the plant shouldn't be having. Yeah. But obviously it looks pretty, so we keep it. Right, and then something else that is interesting. I think you'd have to come in for this one. Yeah, so this is Monstera dubia. Some people pronounce it as dubaya. Right, and it shingles onto the tree. It would attach itself to the tree, and once it reaches the top, where the tree kind of ends, it would kind of go off the tree, and then it would fenestrate. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it won't fenestrate until it goes off, which kind of also shows the idea of why it uses for the wind. Yeah. Because when it's attached to the tree, there's no need for it to have the holes. But once it kind of pushes away from the tree, it obviously now is in direct contact with the wind. So it needs the fenestrations in there. Right, then I think maybe this is although everybody kind of has this, but this is a melanochrysum, Philodendron melanochrysum. Oh, okay. It's the leaves are very, very smooth, very velvety. So I would have probably said, oh, that's an anthurium. But yeah, compared to that, right? They look the same, but they're completely different. They're not even the same species. They're like two different. Well, they are sisters because they are aroids, but. And this one wouldn't climb compared to this, although I have seen some people putting the anthuriums on moss balls. Yeah. And they are actually sticking to the moss ball. Yeah. So you could actually have your anthuriums climbing up as well if you wanted. Yeah. Another method which I found interesting in terms of growing plants is using moss balls. Yeah. And moss balls are quite interesting. You could use many different things as moss balls. Yeah. I've seen somebody use a broomstick, cover it with cloth, just tie the cloth together. Anything that kind of keeps moisture enough for the plant to kind of crawl on. I do use these specifically because they're easy for propagating. I use my moss balls for propagation. And they can easily then be added things in them and easy watering and stuff like that as well. So one of the ways I find easy for propagating is that they root all the way in. Yeah. And in other words, what you could do is once it's climbed all the way to the top and they've rooted in, you could literally just chop off every individual plant. Yeah, undo this. Yes, and you could actually still leave it on because most of the roots are already in. Let them grow on and then take it out. You'd have a plant ready, very instantly. So that's one of the ways I managed to propagate my plants very fast. Yeah. They're already rooted by the time I cut them. Well, this is a Monstera, is it not? Yes, Monstera Adansonia. It's the mint. Oh, this is Adansonia. Yeah, oh, the mint variety and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, you can just make out. It's not strong. You can actually just make out the variegation in there too, isn't it? I think that one is, It's not strong, I think, because of the sunlight. I have put a few in the ground with a bit more light, so let's see what happens to those. So what is your most prized, or is there a most prized thing in here? Yeah, I do have one of those.
Okay, let me just.
So it's not because it's the Monstera aurea. It's because of I've tried to grow it as perfect as possible. There is a little bit of that guy, but I try to hide him.
Oh, you don't want to cut that leaf off and then
Not
have.
just yet, yes.
Not just
Yeah,
yet. To
not just
continue
yet.
to
He's
feed.
still giving, yeah. He's
It
still
is,
giving.
yeah. It's a lovely. The coloration
This
that is
something
quite
I'm only
lovely.
noticing now, but no, it was supposed to be the perfect specimen. I was trying to grow it, you see, without the brown tips and everything, just to see if I could do it. But I've already lost it. That one.
Oh, that looks like some kind of
Something
insect
came
that
and
is
ate it,
coming
yeah.
and eating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's one of my favorite plants in terms of the monsteras or the aroids.
Yeah.
And the others are on this side, the anthuriums. They're all so similar but slightly different. I think that's what interests me.
Yeah.
Is that the little tiny differences make them an entire species. Sorry, an entire a whole different plant.
Yeah.
Even though they're from the same species. And another thing interesting about them is that you could cross-pollinate them and make different shapes.
Yeah,
make
they've been doing a
different,
lot of hybridizing of
yeah.
them in the end. Eh?
Yeah, so I thought let me also try a few. So at the moment I've got 3 different sets of two different sets of seeds, and a few that are actually been pollinated. I don't know if you can see that one there. So what we do is that's the inflorescence of the anthurium, and it would go through a male stage and a female stage. The male stage would have pollen, and the female stage would have like a very wet
stigma.
Yeah, so they don't go through it at the same time. The male first, and then the female. So it would be very difficult for self-pollination. Self-pollination, exactly. So in other words, you'd have to collect it and then do it. So what we do usually is we either wait for 2 to flower at the same time, or we keep pollen collected and keep it in the fridge.
Oh, really? You actually do store pollen and?
I store my pollen. Yes.
Well,
so.
That's when you know that you're really well deep into the weeds, isn't it?
Yeah, so this one though, because I just chanced it because they were flowering at the same time. And this one was going through the female stage, that one was going through the male stage. So I just kind of put them closer together, and every day I would just rub them onto each other. And I've just noticed now it actually has caught, because by now it would have died out. So
this again is another Monstera.
Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah, Monstera. Kill me with the names. When the name comes, I think we should.
Oh, look at that! It's got a little really long.
So it definitely needs this. If it doesn't have this, it will only do this.
Oh, is it?
And it would not have leaves. You'll literally just have sticks. So
yeah.
This has to be grown on a pole or on a wall, but it has to be growing
upwards.
It can't. It's not a trailing Monstera. Like the Adansonia, the other one.
Yeah.
That one you could have it in a falling pot. This one, if you had it in a falling pot, you'd have. It might still look nice. You never know.
A Medusa-esque kind of scenario to it in the end.
Yeah.
But you can't. Sorry.
Were the leaves chewed by a caterpillar?
No, the leaves naturally. So this is it's called fenestration, and it's there's a certain level of programmed cell death.
Yeah.
As the leaves develop, so that this is what happens. And I don't fully know
lots
if
of functions.
it
So
must.
One of the functions is that and you'll notice most of them, not this one specifically, but as they're younger, they won't have the fenestration, and as they grow older, the fenestration start forming. It's because at the top of the tropical forests, there's lots of wind.
Yeah.
So for the leaf to not get damaged, the wind can just pass through instead. So that way, it's adapted to that kind of. So most of the.
I wonder if though, for something like this that has such. Big fenestration. Could this also be an adaptation to trying to reduce its chances of being
seen and
eaten effectively? Where something looks at this and be like, man, something's already eaten that. Let me move on to the next leaf.
Yeah.
So you've got actually quite a number of Monsteras by the look of it too, then, because this is also a Monstera, is it?
Yeah, it's called a spider because of the medium spider, because that looks a bit like
kind of like netting on there and stuff like that.
Yeah. So this actually I planted it. I just changed it recently. This part was over here, and obviously it reached the top. So I cut whatever's at the bottom. That was for propagation, and then I brought the top back. So I'm trying to get in the full leaves.
And it had rooted in there, so it was already had the roots when you pop it in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was already ready.
And then this, I'm assuming the leaves on this would get bigger as it climbs, effectively, with most of those kinds of aroids. And then there's just bring out this again with this kind of variegation here.
So that's an Epipremnum, same family as the pothos, marble, Epipremnum marble. Except this one, the fenestration start young.
This is the marble queen.
No.
Oh, okay. This is a different cultivar.
You get the Epipremnum the one that they call specifically pothos.
Yeah.
This one is not even called pothos.
Oh, okay. So this is a different species
Yes,
of
yes,
epipremnum then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's epipremnum, but because it does, you can't really have it as a trading plant. It's already fenestrated,
Yeah.
and its wood is quite hard compared to the pothos, so it will prefer climbing up than trailing.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But it does have that kind of lovely
Yes, yes.
aspect to the variegation. And I do kind of prefer these kinds of leaves, like personally, when you've got green, but then you've got that kind of
yes,
irregular variegation that
it's
runs
also
through
better
it.
for the plant because it grows faster. It's got more green.
Yeah.